Hello everyone, welcome to the KZGN News. Today we'll bring you news from the Sheriff's Department, California election news, news from the Democrat Club, today's gas prices, weather sports, and much more.
From the Rademacher Hills to Bee Mountain and the mighty Sierras, Ridgecrest to Inyokern and China Lake, this is your news for the Indian Wells Valley with the KZGN News Crew.
Hello, I'm Tom Whitnick. Thanks for joining us for the news affecting Ridgecrest and the Indian Wells Valley. Well, it is once again official. Sheriff Youngblood has decided to close the Ridgecrest Jail at the end of June. Originally, he wanted to close it back in February with just 2 weeks' notice to the community. The public outcry was so intense against the closure that a town hall meeting was held for the public to voice their displeasure. To his credit, Sheriff Youngblood agreed to attend the meeting and take the questions. It was almost a standing room crowd at City Hall for the meeting. Every speaker was given a chance to speak. Every speaker challenged the sheriff and his numbers. The basis of the cut comes from a reduction in funding from the county. This comes as the county has reduced revenue, mainly caused by the drop in oil prices, which in turn has caused a drop of tax revenue. The county is experiencing the loss of about $26 million per year, so every county department has to take a hit. Everyone acknowledges that what is not right is the numbers being used by the sheriff. His basic argument is he has to cut the jail to meet the required cuts from the supervisors. Closing the jail here will supposedly save him about $600,000 per year. But in the same breath, all he is really doing is shifting the funds from this jail to fund positions at the jail in Lerdo. He is not cutting anything. He is taking the funds for these positions to fund other unfilled positions over there. Does everyone get that? This is not a cut. This is a shift in the use of the funds. He is using these funds to fill unfilled positions there. And in his own words from the town hall, these positions have been vacant for a long time. So if they've been vacant for a long time, why do they need to be filled now? Why does the city have to take the hit that no other city in Kern County will suffer? Then there is the issue of public safety, which should be the most important issue for the sheriff and the county. Public safety should be first, then the other items get funded if the funding is available. Yet other things get funded and public safety takes the hit. And now the real impact, our public safety. On a typical day, we have 3 patrol officers and a sergeant on duty to handle the majority of calls for service every shift. We arrest people almost every shift. People that have to be transported to jail for holding. So we have basically 4 officers available to handle these calls. When a call goes out that can be dangerous to the public and the officers, usually 2 officers respond to the call. So what happens when the call results in someone getting arrested? After the local jail closes, an officer will have to transport the prisoner from Ridgecrest to at least Mojave for booking into jail. And the department estimates that at least half of the bookings will not be able to be done in Mojave, and the officer will have to transport the prisoner to Bakersfield booking. So the one arrest will reduce our available officers by 1 officer for at least 3 hours for every arrest, and that's if everything goes perfectly in Mojave. If they have to transport to Bakersfield, the loss is 1 officer for at least 5 or 6 hours if all goes perfectly. So now we are down to 2 officers and a sergeant on the street. What happens if 3 hours later we get another arrest? And in a typical shift, we can have 3 or more arrests sometimes. Each one of those will probably take an officer on the street for hours. We could wind up with a sergeant only available to take the calls for service. This is a real possibility. And then what will happen when we are down to 1 officer and another call comes in for any serious crime? That 1 remaining officer will respond with no backup, no one available to help. One might say, well, the sheriff could be called for backup. Sure, that's true. But how long will it take for one of them to show up when an officer gives a call over the radio? Officer needs backup now. It could be too late for the victims of a crime or even the officer. This decision to close the jail puts the public at grave risk, and it puts our officers at grave risk. This shortage could result in a recruiting problem as well. The cut could result in criminals being just cited and released versus being put in jail due to a shortage of officers to handle the calls. And the fact is, no cuts the sheriff has proposed has affected any city in Kern County as Ridgecrest is being affected, once again showing the county's disdain for the fine people of Ridgecrest and the Indian Wells Valley. Again, no other city will have to take their officers off the street for hours at a time to transport and book prisoners like we will have to do here. I do say that Chief Strand is looking into possible solutions. However, they will cost the city funds we don't have available. Next week, we'll cover the Chief's proposed solutions to reduce the impact somewhat. In California election news, we get this report. California election officials are finally anticipating a groundswell of voter participation this June after years of declining turnout. More than 600,000 people have already registered or re-registered over the past few months, according to Secretary of State Alex Padilla, foreshadowing a surge of voters in the primary elections to be held June 7th. Though the prospect of record civic participation comes as welcome news, Padilla has warned the governor that county election agencies could easily be overwhelmed by the sheer volume of participants. He is asking the state to provide an additional $32 million to help the counties deal with increased workload ahead. The good thing is that there's interest in the election. That's what we're all about, said Neil Kelly, president of the California Association of Clerks and Elected Officials. But I'm not going to lie to you, he added. I think there will be some counties who I think will be short of resources. In addition to the rise of online voter registration, intense interest in the 2016 election cycle and the Republican primary in particular is expected to drive a number of people to the polls. For the first time in decades, California could be a decisive factor in the outcome of a presidential race. After all, if any of the GOP candidates fail to clinch the 1,237 delegates required for the nomination before California's primary, the Golden State could ultimately decide the winner. So it's good to see the election officials trying to get ready for the possible huge voter turnout June 7th. In campaign news, Sarah Palin really stirred up controversy in a speech in April, just before the Wisconsin primary. Her accusations stated in her speech are just now being reported after fact-checking. Speaking on behalf of Donald Trump, Sarah Palin gave a speech April 5th to a Wisconsin Republican audience. Standing firmly on a platform of truth, Palin warned the mostly party establishment audience their decision to stand with deception in order to win the election also means placing themselves in a very precarious position. The response from the audience to Sarah's brutal honesty was cool. Such was the discomfort when Sarah Palin mentioned Senator Ted Cruz's weak and opportunist immigration position, and then contrasted a real-life example of Cruz going to McAllen, Texas, Saturday, July 19, 2014, to hand out gift baskets and welcome illegal alien families. You could hear a pin drop in the room, and the main organizer of the gift basket program event was Glenn Beck, the self-proclaimed conservative that is always saying Trump isn't a conservative. Here's Glenn Beck's answer to the charges of hypocrisy on his supposed hard stance on illegals. He said the entire event was essentially based on fraud. The fraud was the Obama administration claiming that hundreds of thousands of unaccompanied alien children were arriving on the southern border en masse and needed to be cared for. The entire administration talking point was complete nonsense, but the media helped sell the ridiculous story as if it were real. Palin went on saying, and Ted Cruz and Glenn Beck helped perpetuate the fraud by claiming there was an urgent humanitarian crisis. There was neither. The reality was the influx of illegal border crossings were factually entire families, mostly from Mexico, but also from Honduras, Guatemala, and Panama. The Obama administration had specifically kickstarted the South American immigration approximately a year earlier, and the families were showing up as an outcome of the State Department coordinating the exodus. Almost everything about the crisis was a sham, including DHS Secretary Johnson going before an emergency congressional committee and demanding $4 billion to deal with the humanitarian crisis. These were not children, they were entire families. We have tens of thousands of American kids in inner city areas in as much as a crisis as the illegals we allowed to pour across the border, but we don't see Johnson demanding $4 billion for the American children. Charity begins at home, at least it should. So Sarah Palin provided some new facts to those GOP insiders who gathered in Wisconsin. And if we are to give benefit of the doubt to those who heard it, apparently it's the first time they became aware of Senator Cruz's deception on his proclaimed hard stance against illegal aliens. Palin also pointed out other Cruz inconsistencies in his positions. Again, Sarah was loaded with the truth. The Republican disbelievers didn't want to hear about that inconvenient reality either. Then, after they realized everything she was saying was factual, they started spinning. Eventually, they wanted to drop the subject completely. It's easier to hide those uncomfortable truths that way. Fact Check followed up on Palin's comments and did in fact find pictures of Cruz and Beck at the border in Texas handing out toys to the illegal alien families. So the campaign rhetoric continues. As we do this newscast, there's a GSA formation meeting going on right now down at City Hall. It started at 5 and is supposed to go until 7 p.m. Friday evening. So if you want to run down to City Hall right after the news, you can still catch about 1 hour of the meeting. And I suggest you should do that. This new GSA is a big important issue for everyone in the Indian Wells Valley. This will be a whole new level of government that will have taxing authority over everyone in the valley. I repeat, for those of you not hearing me clearly, this will be a whole new level of government that will have taxing authority over everyone in the valley. This group will be assessing us new taxes we'll all have to pay, and I predict that these new taxes could be on us by the end of the year. And for those of you on private wells that think this new agency won't impact you, you better wake up and not believe the rhetoric someone might be telling you. Again, every household and property in this valley will be affected by this agency, both by new laws and new taxes. Don't sit back and just let it happen without your input. Get involved. I don't care what side of the water issue you may be on. Get involved. The members of this new agency will need to hear from the people as to what we think it should do. In the election news, we get this report from the Trump campaign. As we get to where it now appears that California will probably be the deciding state on who gets the Republican presidential nomination, Trump has recognized how important a campaign in California will be. Monday, Donald Trump announced that he has hired veteran California GOP strategist Tim Clark to direct the campaign's California effort. Clark has 20-plus years of experience running Republican campaigns in California and has also served as a campaign advisor to several state GOP chairmen. Mr. Trump stated, "I am pleased to bring Tim on board to organize what is a very important state. I know he will be an asset to the team and ultimately deliver a win in California." This is an exciting time for the Republican Party, said Tim Clark. Donald Trump's message of fiscally sound government, restored economic prosperity, and strong national security is re-energizing our party's conservative base. We have a very important job to do in California. By harnessing the excitement surrounding Mr. Trump's candidacy, it's our intention to deliver 172 delegates for Trump to the National Convention. Tim will build out a top-tier statewide operation, and Mr. Trump will be traveling to California several times before the primary in June, where he currently leads in all state polls. Well, the Democratic Club has announced their next meeting. The Democratic Club of the High Desert will hold their monthly lunch meeting on Saturday, April 16th at noon at the Great Leaf Restaurant at 901 North Heritage Drive. They are honored to announce that their guest speaker shall be Dana Lyons. She's chairwoman of the Ridgecrest Regional Hospital Board of Directors. Dana will share the very exciting progress and accomplishments made by the hospital during the past few years. She will also tell us about some hospital plans for the future. Everyone is welcome to attend. There is no admission fee. Buying your own lunch or a drink is optional. For more information, contact Matthew Alexander, the press officer, at 760-382-3878. Now, in KZGN continues effort to provide news and information you've asked for, here are today's gas prices for Ridgecrest and some surrounding areas. Well, since my last report on Wednesday, local prices have held steady. And the good news is we still have the lowest prices in all the areas we're monitoring. As of this morning, Ridgecrest is ranging from $2.57 to $2.99. Lancaster from $2.69 to $2.99. The LA Valley area from $2.59 to $2.89. And the Bishop area $2.72 to $2.99. We have 4 stations at $2.57 per gallon. Tune in Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays for updates. We at KZGN always suggest you shop locally to support our local economy. Remember, when you pay sales tax out of town, you're helping those cities pave their streets instead of here. Now stay with us. After the break, we'll have weather and sports. Thanks for staying with us. Now here's Lane with the weather.
Thank you, Tom. From the National Weather Service, heavy rain and thunderstorms will move across portions of Florida and the southeast. Localized flash flooding is possible. Heavy rain is also possible for parts of the Pacific Northwest. The higher elevations of the Cascades will see heavy snowfall. Temperatures across the nation. Carolinas at 61, Georgia at 64, Arkansas at 64, Northern Texas at 67, Arizona at 76, and Los Angeles at 70. And for us locally, tonight, clear with a low around 50, west wind 20 to 25 miles per hour, with gusts as high as 35. Saturday, sunny with a high near 82, northwest wind 10 to 15 miles per hour. Saturday night, clear with a low around 53, north wind 5 to 10 miles per hour. Sunday, sunny with a high near 84, north-northeast wind 5 to 10 miles per hour. Sunday night, clear with a low around 54, northeast wind 5 to 10 miles per hour. Monday, sunny with a high near 85, north-northeast wind 5 miles per hour. Monday night, mostly clear with a low around 56, west-southwest wind 5 miles per hour. And Tuesday, sunny with a high near 87, northwest wind 5 miles per hour. And that is your forecast for the IWV. Now back to Tom.
Thanks, Lane. And now here's sports with Tom Hecht.
And a very pleasant Friday afternoon to everyone. Let's talk about Saracoso baseball. The Coyotes lost their second game this week to Rio Hondo. Final score 13-0. That game down in Whittier. Saracoso will host Rio Hondo for the third game of the three-game set on Saturday. That game at noon up at Saracoso, also on SaracosoBaseball.club and 1240 KLOA. All right, let's talk a little bit about Burroughs baseball. Burroughs baseball today hosts Hesperia. Burroughs off to a great start. They're 10-2 overall. John Bradley and crew really playing good baseball. They're 1-0 in the Mojave River League. They've outscored their opponents 114-38. So they'll host Hesperia today. That game playing at 4:30. All right, let's talk about the NBA right now. First round matchups, some pretty good ones. Indiana, Toronto in the East should be interesting. Houston lucky to get in the playoffs. They finished 41-41. They have to take on Golden State, so they won't be around very long. Golden State 73 wins this year. That sets an all-time record for the most wins in one season in the NBA. All right, Boston and Atlanta, both teams 48-34. Hawks so have the tiebreaker. They will host Boston in the best of 7. Oklahoma City and Dallas, that'll be a very interesting matchup in the West. I'm going to pick OKC to win that one. In the East, Detroit at Cleveland. Detroit much improved, but Cleveland should win that one. Charlotte and Miami also in the East. I'm going to pick Miami to beat Charlotte. Charlotte playing well lately, though. Memphis and San Antonio in the West. San Antonio should win that in 5 games. And Portland and the Clippers, that's going to be a good matchup. The Clippers finished 53-29. Game 1 is Sunday at 7:30. I picked the Clippers to win in 6 games in that one. Major League Baseball, who's off to a good start. The Orioles 7-1. Chicago, the White Sox 7-2. And the Angels leading the West with a 5-4 record. They've won 3 straight. They swept Oakland over the week, and now tonight they'll take on the Twins, who are 0-9, worst record in baseball, up in cold Minneapolis. All right, the Dodgers will open up tonight, 3 games against the Giants. Sunday night will be nationally televised on ESPN. Also, Washington and the Cubs both 7-1 in the National League, and the Giants 6-4. They were 6-2. They have lost 2 straight games. So, baseball here already, NBA playoffs starting up, NHL hockey, the Kings, the Sharks from California, also the Ducks, all in the NHL playoffs. A lot of stuff going on. That's your sports. Have a good weekend. Tom Heck for KZGN.
So that's the news for today. All the KZGN-TV know you have a choice in what you watch for your news. We all thank you for choosing KZGN-TV, Ridgecrest's only locally owned community TV station. Now stay tuned for Ridgecrest Talk coming up next.